And good morning. Welcome to Focus on Stafford County on 1590 KVGB, 95.5 FM. We are the talk of the town. Our once-a-month visit with an update on what's going on in Stafford County. Joining us today, Stafford County Economic Development Director Kathleen Norman is on the program.
Hi, Steve.
Sorry, it's been a while. It's still getting used to saying that. By the way, congratulations. That's really cool. And also, an AmeriCorps Vista making her second appearance on the program. Falon Runabaum with us today. Hi, Falon.
Hello.
You guys are headed to Manhattan. Big conference coming up, huh?
Yeah, so the Kansas Entrepreneurship Challenge is happening on the 28th, Thursday, April 28th. So we hosted a local competition. I know Great Bend also hosted a competition. But Network Kansas kind of sponsors these youth entrepreneurship challenges, and then the qualifying teams from their local competition and several Wildcat spots compete at state, and so that's what we'll be in Manhattan for tomorrow.
Okay, are there competitors that will be represented from Stafford County in this?
Yeah, so our first place was Tiger Coffee, and so that is a school-based business that there's 4 students who are going to present that at state.
So is this a offshoot of Tiger Pizza?
It is not.
Okay.
I mean, the Tiger's there because the St. John Hudson School
Sure.
The Tigers, but this is been a work with the business and the FACS program and things to have a coffee shop in-house at the school now. So they did a lot of sample testing and surveying. So
You're excited to see them perform. I guess not. I mean, let's see, present.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to be taking place. A great program that's going on in Manhattan. So let's get right to the great news. $2.5 million. Gosh, that's around 10 years ago when Carolyn Dunn came in and told me that, no, we're not having boats in St. John. This is a port authority. And that's kind of where it got started, and it's getting closer all the time. Tell me about the $2.5 million grant, where it came from, and all the details.
Right. So part of the state's allocation of the federal money they've received through ARPA funds and distributed through their Spark committee was this BASE program. So Carolyn worked to put together a $6.6 million ask to help us get the port going. That included already having basically a 2.5 local match through a TIF district and things like that. So this gives us another $2.5 million, so we're about $10 million towards a $10 million project. So it's huge. They had, I don't know, the base committee had received over 400 applications. They only ended up funding 35 of them. So, I mean, we're very excited. This will allow us to look at moving forward with land purchase, start pulling in other pieces of funding. But big news, exciting news.
Now, this is from, who's the grant from again?
So it's a state grant. So it's through the Department of Commerce. It's the one who authorized the BASE program.
Okay, so 35 others, or 34 others that got some grant money out of this. So this is all going toward, you said, the project, and kind of explain the project and what hopefully we'll see here in the near future.
Yeah, so the goal of the Stafford County Port Authority is to develop a mile loop track southwest of St. John. And so we have a BNSF main line that runs through the county. And so after doing some feasibility work, that was determined to be the best location for this type of facility because it will have good access to both Highway 50 and Highway 281. So this is a public-private partnership kind of thing. So the idea is thinking about it maybe more like an airport. So you have airports and airlines lease access to use the airport. Each airline doesn't have to build their own airport to be able to operate in and out of. And so that's kind of the port. The port will be owned by the infrastructure for the rail will be owned by the Port Authority, and then they'll be able to lease access and land around for like a grain company to come in. And so grain is going to be our kind of our anchor. That's what we know will make this feasible. And then we'll be looking at having auxiliary businesses also develop in the area.
I remember when the grocery store was being developed and planned, and I can't remember where the grant came from, but it was a key cog in getting this. And it was huge. And how important was getting this for this project to continue?
I mean, this was basically, if we did not get funding, we did not see a viable option forward. So, I mean, this is really the catalyst that's going to allow this to happen. I mean, we're not to the finish line yet, but it's what's going to be able to allow us to continue to stack kind of those other pieces of funding that we're going to need.
So that being said, how did you find out? Did you get a phone call? Was there a letter that's waiting there? I mean, tell me about when getting the news. That's the most exciting thing.
So Carolyn had a phone call, and then there was also an email. So all of the grant awardees received an email the day before the press release went out to the public.
So she called you, or did you get one, or did you just see it?
I was in the office,
okay.
And so I could hear down the hall. I could hear the elation. So then after the call, I popped over to find out what exactly we were looking at.
So what do you think, Falon? Did you,
did
you know what it was?
I'm just kind of here for the ride.
Okay.
I was definitely excited. I haven't heard much about the port. That's not really anything that I've been focusing on during my service year. But I've been trying to learn a little bit more about it. I went to the Port Authority's board the other day just to kind of sit in that meeting, hear a little bit more about it. So it is exciting to see that it's moving forward. I feel like it'd be great for the area. There's nothing like it. So
yeah,
I'm excited to see where it goes.
Okay, so we have this. So now I guess it's what's next, Kathleen?
It is figuring out how to get another $5 million. So more grant applications to other programs. Some of it has been, like Carolyn was in Topeka yesterday talking to some people to find out, if there's other funding that will be available coming through different programs. And so right now it's figuring out the rest of the financing. I mean, this allows us to move forward. We can't really set a date on construction. Like, I don't see this being like completed within the next year, but this is the major thing that will, again, allow for things to move forward. Like, we can probably look at purchasing the land, we can start getting some other stuff. It allows us to have more conversations with those auxiliary tenants. So looking at, someone who does like aggregate rock and stuff like that. Like, now that we're close and we know that we can, we have a stronger framework. It's looking at who else can we pull in that will give the investment needed to get the matches to be competitive in the grants.
Do we have an agreement with an anchor tenant right now? If as we move forward, I mean.
So currently, yes. So when this all was getting developed, starting at the end of 2020, is really when things have picked up. That's when we started doing kind of the infrastructure development. We have a letter of intent signed with Wind River Grain. And so that would be kind of like an expansion of existing stuff. They're mostly in Garden and some other places right now. But so we do have an anchor tenant letter of intent signed. But again, having it be a publicly owned, asset once it's developed, it will allow for more businesses, which would be, increased capital improvement to the area, increased business, which would then make it more favorable for BNSF. But the project's well supported from a lot of angles because there's not anything quite like it in our region. So it would be a huge benefit to all parties involved.
So we're going to have a circle track going around out there, right?
Yep. So it'll be, So there'll be like a Y spur that goes into a loop and then it Y spurs back on. So you'll be able to have a 100-car plus unit train in that. Okay. And that's the big push right now. The railroads really don't want to run anything that's not a unit train. So right now it's like you could bring in a unit train and just fill it with grain, but down the road, the goal would be you could have kind of intermodal. So containers, other things, you could have people that just are able to fill like 5 of the train cars, and maybe you have a company that can fill 20. And so you'd be able to build unit trains there, which is different than when you have, say, like an independent company having their privately owned rail track.
So talk about the conversations that you've had with the railroad. I know. Because those guys are the hardest guys to get a hold of to find out who to talk to.
They are. I mean, that's where like our partnership with Wind River Grain.
Okay.
They've already been working with BNSF, had good relations, knew who to talk to. BNSF is supportive of this project. But I mean, it's hard. I mean, you see that with a number of things. Like we have a letter of support from them, but
still got some work to do, right?
Right. And and it's like, how do you, BNSF doesn't usually like fund projects. Usually they'll give incentives on freight prices after the development, as long as the amount of freight guaranteed is the amount of freight actually like happening. So like there's options to looking at incentives and stuff. Some of that would be more beneficial for the tenant than say for us with the infrastructure.
Sure.
But I mean, they're supportive. KDOT sees an interest in it. We are talking to a couple of other companies that aren't grain that have interest in the area because they can see it being hugely beneficial.
How much more do you know about rail than you did 2 years ago?
A fair bit more.
Yeah.
So it even just like there's very specific requirements on what type of rock. Like this project's going to take a lot of rock. It's going to take 3 unit trains. So it's going to take 300 cars on a train of rock to build out this project. Like that's a lot of rock. And there's really specific requirements. So you can't just get the rock from anywhere.
Right.
And that actually is one of the things that just keeps going up in price right now, which is hard because it's like this project, 2 years ago would have been closer to like $7 million. And now we're looking at like $10 million.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's super exciting because we are starting to get some of those key components in place that are going to allow us to really move forward.
Okay.
It doesn't mean we're there, but we have motivation to keep going.
But you had to have this to keep it going.
Yeah.
So that's really great. Congratulations to everybody with Stafford County Eco Devo. We're going to take a break, and we'll have more of the show coming up right after this. Back on Focus on Stafford County today, Steve Webster joined here by Kathleen Norman, also Falon Runenbaum, AmeriCorps Vista with Stafford County Eco Devo. You wanted to hit on housing a little bit today. Give us an update on what's going on there.
Yeah, so things keep moving. It's good. The 3 houses that are underway in Stafford should be 2 of them for sure will be completed by the end of May. Potentially all 3. And so 2 of the houses we already have tenants lined up for, and the wait list was notified that they could start applying for that 3rd house. And we've received an application and we'll start processing. And that one's probably going to be filled in a week once all the processing's done. So we have a wait list of 23 people who qualify with the income restrictions for these houses we're developing. So it's crazy. The 3 in St. John, we're only opening applications as we have a date for movement.
Sure.
But the 3 in St. John, they started the site work. Those will be developed, and then we're getting ready to survey the property in Maxville that will get 2 houses. And we'll see. Our contractor told me last week that he thinks all of them will be done by like the end of November. So the next 5. So I know for sure the ones in St. John should be done this fall, probably like an October move-in date. But it's moving.
Well, everybody's talking about housing needs and things like that. How many calls do you get from other places? How do you guys do that?
We do get calls. And I think that's I mean, housing is a huge challenge.
Sure.
We're seeing an influx at the state level that more money is going to be put in their moderate housing program coming up. So instead of a $2 million a year grant program, it's going to have $20 million this year. And there's additional housing development that's going to be funded, especially like with the dairy going in Dodge City or the, I guess, cheese manufacturing that will create more dairies in the area.
Right.
Like there's a huge need for housing. It's great to have that business come in, but I think everyone's like, where are our workers going to live? Like, I mean, it's a good problem to have. It's have to be better if it wasn't a problem at all.
So once these homes are built and you have tenants, they're just continuing to try to keep adding more as we go along?
So yeah, actually we're getting ready to put together. We have a proposal put together that we're going to put in front of our county commissioners to see if they can allocate some of the ARPA funds towards more housing development. And it would be looking at developing a program that would also ask the cities to buy in. And then with having those kind of matching funds, we could make a competitive grant to the moderate income housing program to look at building additional houses. I think our goal with the next set of houses is these are a really great house. They've been coming in around the 130 price point, which is really remarkable in these times.
Yeah.
But we've gotten feedback, looking at making some modifications. Can we put it on a basement and have it more at like the 160 price point? We're still waiting to get final confirmation of pricing from our contractor. But then the next set of houses, we wouldn't have the same restrictions we do on our current houses. We'd be better able to sell them if people are interested. I mean, we've had people interested in buying our houses. We're just kind of hand tied to have to, keep them for the compliance period. So I think it's looking at, how do we build on what we've been doing to continue to meet the need.
Okay, we're going to take another break here. We'll have more of Focus on Stafford County right after this. Focus on Stafford County today. Steve Webster joined by Kathleen Norman, also Falon Runabaum with us. And I guess this is the AmeriCorps portion, right?
Yeah, so Falon's been here over a half a year now. So 6 months she's been here. And so I thought she could talk a little bit about what she's been working on.
Okay, since you were here last time, I don't think it's changed, but kind of give your background when where you originally from and how'd you find out about Stafford County economic development, Falon?
So I'm kind of from a few different places throughout Kansas. I've got family in the Halstead town there, and then I graduated from the University of Kansas, and my high school career was in Kansas City, Missouri. So mostly eastern portion of Kansas. I know from last time that this is central. This is central Kansas, not western.
See, you've learned already.
I learned.
Yeah.
I've learned something in my service year. So
how's the experience been so far?
It's been good. I've definitely learned a lot about things that I feel like I never would have unless you really are working in the field. I know more about childcares than I feel like I need to know almost. I can reiterate so many just random facts about what's needed. It's really interesting to have been looking at different statistics regarding housing too in Stafford County. Yeah, it's just been, I've learned a lot.
Well, and is this kind of where your emphasis has been on everybody needs childcare too? They're going through it here in Barton County. Everywhere needs, people want to work, but if you don't have any place to take your kids, that's kind of a big detriment to that. So
that's exactly it. We had a survey that was taken in Stafford County, and families could see about a $30,000 increase in their household income if there were daycares available. And that's mostly just because, they're not being able to go to work. Even if it's just half time that they could work, it helps a lot when it comes to that overall income.
That probably wasn't a surprising result. I guess maybe the 30,000 additional household income is. What are some other things that you garnered from this study? Do we have enough time?
That's a good question. It's we know that there's at least 70 to 100 spots that are needed for childcare. And so that's what we've really been focusing on, is that what is the quickest way to open up, licensed daycares? What is the need that is the most? We know that the majority of the need is in the St. John Hudson School District. So that's where we've kind of been focusing our efforts currently.
What's kind of ideas that are being thrown around for maybe a way to help alleviate the problem?
So we have a proposal that will also be going to county commission to get funding.
So
for
when's this county commission meeting going to be?
So we're getting on the schedule for their May 4th meeting. So the biggest thing is location seems to be the biggest challenge. There's people interested in providing, but they don't want to provide it outside of their home. And so we're looking at how can you get spaces that would allow people to operate more of a in-home style daycare. So we've seen in Edwards County, and I know Kiowa County is starting to work that way, where they use either a modular classroom unit or find a space that's available that then has there's more control or ownership with, say, either the child care committee or a fiscal sponsor owning the property and then most of the equipment inside. So then you can bring a provider in, they can operate their business for how long they want, but when they're done, they move out, but you still have the bones to bring in the next provider. So the current proposal is looking at a space in Maxville and bringing in a modular to St. John to help with it. And the school district in St. John currently has a space they're looking to get filled for a daycare provider. And we're talking to a church and another business about, do they have space within their building that could be utilized for that kind of in-home daycare.
Wow.
Yeah.
A lot going on.
Lots of things. lots of things in the air.
So again, that's May
4th.
4th. Okay.
So, yes.
Well, we're going to have a lot of exciting news when you're here next month.
We will. we will.
All right, Falon, how long are you staying around? You're still going to be here for a while, right?
I have until the end of August.
Oh, so you've got plenty more time to come on the program.
Summer, yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, good luck to the Stafford County entrant in the Entrepreneurship Challenge, and certainly appreciate your time coming in here. Great news. Bring us some more good news next month.
We'll try.
All right, Kathleen Norman with us, along with Falon Runnebaum with us here on Focus on Stafford County. News coming up next. Thanks.